Good morning, everyone in the soccer world. It is Saturday, and you know what that means. It is time for Edging a Win here on Grandstand Better's YouTube channel. Welcome in, friends of the channel. It's April 15th, and we have 4 more best bets for you this morning. But before we get into our best bets, we got to introduce the face of the program, and please welcome in, knower of all things soccer, honorary Cleveland Guardians aficionado, and anxious Oxford United fan, Ian Allen from Ian OUFC right here on YouTube. Ian, how goes it this morning?
Good afternoon or good morning to those watching in the US. I have a mix of emotions going around, Matt. It's exciting to have another great weekend of football. Let's hope we can have some good winners. We did okay last week. Let's hope we can get even more winners for the good folks out there. Terrified as well of Oxford's weekend and trying to fight for survival at the bottom of League One. But again, as I say, it should be a great weekend. There's so much football, so much soccer happening right the way through the week. You've got EFL playing today, EFL playing on Tuesday, Champions League in the week as well. It's just non-stop soccer at this time of the year, and it's great.
It is a good time of the year. I do love this as we get closer to the end of the season. And you know what? I think it makes for a fun show, which we have lined up for you. Make sure you stick around, as always, to the end of the show where Ian gives us a £1 parlay, which is at very good odds this week. Also, while you're at it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and go check out all our social media pages listed there on the screen for you, including Ian's soccer channel, his Ian OUFC here right on YouTube. It's a great way to follow along on some lower level soccer around the UK. Now, if you see something during this show that you want to talk to us about, please put it in the chat. And if you have any other questions during this stream, feel free to chat with us. We are here to educate you and really learn more about the soccer world and the soccer world and how to bet these games. So make sure you talk with us in the chat. If you have any questions, let us know. But hey, without further ado, Ian, let's dive into your best 3 bets here for the weekend. And we're going to start in the Premier League, which has actually already kicked off this morning as Villa is up 2-0 over Newcastle at the moment. We'll keep you updated on that score. But I think you're looking at another one this afternoon at 3 p.m. your time, 10 a.m. my time.
Yeah, exactly right, Matt. You know, let's talk. We built it up, fun and excitement and great games of soccer happening this weekend. So I'm going to pick one that is going to be an absolute slog and a horrible game of soccer. I'm going for Everton versus Fulham, and I'm going for Everton on the money line. And I can't stress this enough. Do not expect this to be pretty, and for large parts of the game, don't expect it to be interesting. But I do think Everton are going to get the job done at home against Fulham. The Toffees have clawed themselves out of the relegation zone. It's been a horrible season for them, but they do still need some more points to secure safety. Obviously, earlier on in the season, they had Frank Lampard, who's got a penchant for failing upwards, who now finds himself as a Chelsea manager. I don't understand that either. But Sean Dyche has come in as the manager there. He did a good job with Burnley, kept them up for many, many years before finally, inevitably, he didn't. But one thing he's good at is he's good at getting his sides well organised, and he's good at making them hard to beat. And above all else, these Everton fans, they're used to these scraps now, and they're used to kind of turning out, making Goodison Park a bit of a fortress, and also becoming like that 12th man to kind of spur their team on. You've got to throw into the fact that Fulham aren't in great form either, and they've not won a Premier League game since the middle of February. I know what long winless runs are like. Trust me, I know what they're like. And also, you've got that little bit of like they've had a good season, but they're not really going to be in any danger of getting relegated. They're not in any danger of going for Europe. So it's kind of like you feel that the winds come out of their sails and they're just coasting a little bit. Alexander Mitrovic is like their talismanic striker, and he's not available through suspension. So I think it's going to be a case of Everton nicking a goal, defending for their lives, and winning a narrow, probably a 1-0 win for Everton.
Yeah, I like that bet today. Honestly, we did speak, I think, after last week's show a little off air about Everton and their struggles over the last, whoever knows, like decade. Aren't they really supposed to be a better side? It seems like this is a regular occurrence each and every year with this side. Also, do you think Sean Dyche is going to be successful next season if he can keep Everton up?
I wouldn't put a lot of money on it. I wouldn't be absolutely sure. And it's nothing against Sean Dyche. It's nothing against his ability to manage at a high level or anything like that. Everton are just weird how they are a huge like legacy club in English football, but they've done really nothing for the last 20-25 years. They've just coasted around. Sometimes they have a good year and they finish towards Europe. Sometimes they have a few bad years and they nearly get relegated. But they've always been a Premier League ever present, always in the shadow of Liverpool, and they just kind of exist without really doing too much. What sense life cycle of an Everton manager seems to be, they come in, they have some good form, the crowd get excited, that form goes away, crowd get angry, manager gets fired, new guy comes in, repeat the cycle again. So I don't think that Sean Dyche will be I wouldn't be shocked if sort of around Christmas time Sean Dyche is under pressure, Everton fire a manager, bring a new guy in to try and keep them up again next season.
Is there anybody in England right now that is actually rooting for Everton to go down?
Probably the sides that are around the relegation zone with them. But I would say that there will be some Liverpool fans that probably want Everton to go down because they'll think it will be funny. But generally, they probably enjoy having that rivalry every season. So not really too many. No, I wouldn't say there's that many at all. It'd be weird because I'm so used to them just being a Premier League club, but I don't think there's much ill will towards them.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? I think the Premier League itself doesn't want Everton to go down because of those rivalries and stuff like that. Quick shout out to Billy who joined us. Billy says, "Good morning, Grandstand, hardest working sports channel." We try, Billy, we try. So that is bet one, Everton on the money line. I like it, but I think we got another one in the Premier League tomorrow, and I think it's going to be a good one with, if I'm not mistaken, maybe a title race implication on the line.
Absolutely, Matt. Yeah, for the first time on this channel, we are looking at the league leaders in the EPL. It's West Ham. It's not West Ham. They're not the leaders, believe me. It's West Ham versus Arsenal. That is tomorrow. I'm not sure if you said the times, but it'll be 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So make sure you get up early or maybe even put the money on the night before so you're not scrambling for time. But I reckon Arsenal, I think they're -1 on the spread. I think that is a really good bet in this one. Quite simply, Arsenal have been fantastic this season. They're not only top of the Premier League, but they've played some of the best football in the Premier League along the way as well. But it is getting to the business end of the season. It is getting more all about substance rather than style. And they did drop points last weekend against Liverpool. It was an amazing game. But they did end up losing points in that one. But I think that is at the detriment of West Ham United because you're going to see an Arsenal side that's going to be going to West Ham to try and score some goals, get a big win, ease some nerves. West Ham, not much to play for. They're struggling down the bottom of the league themselves. They played on Thursday night in the Europa Conference League, so they're going to be a little bit tired. Arsenal are going to be fresh. I expect the likes of Martinelli, Jesus, Saka to hit West Ham with a lot of pace and power, and I see a big win for the Gooners on Sunday.
Yeah, Liverpool versus Arsenal, Ian, quite honestly, was the best games I've seen in a long time, but we did see Arsenal blow a 2-goal lead in that game. Can Arsenal handle the pressure with Man City breathing down their necks? If I'm not mistaken, also Man City, which is 6 points below Arsenal at the moment, does have a game in hand. So essentially, if you think they're going to win that game, they're really only 3 points away.
3 points away, and they've also got to play Arsenal in a couple of weeks as well. So still a lot to play for. It's a great question. It's going to be the question that's thrown at Arsenal until they get the job done. And Man City have this ability at the end of the seasons to just win. We've seen them do it before where they win 8, 9, 10, 11 games on the bounce. They barely drop any points once it gets down to the crunch. So Arsenal they can't really rely on Manchester City dropping points. They're going to have to almost win the majority of their games if they want to win this Premier League. And in recent years, that's been the biggest problem with them. Problem with Arsenal has been the fact that if anybody puts a bit of pressure on them, they fold and they collapse and they crumble. But I actually think Mikel Arteta's got this side playing with a lot more steel, and they got a lot more backbone than they've had in maybe since the last time they won the Premier League in 2004. And he needs a lot of credit for changing that mindset around. I've seen Arsenal go toe-to-toe. They haven't just gone to these big sides in the Premier League and rolled over and died. They've gone there and they've gone toe-to-toe with Man United, Man City, Liverpool. Usually I would have expected an Arsenal side to go to Liverpool and lose 3 or 4-0, 5-0, something like that, just absolutely collapse. They didn't. They stuck in there. They fought. And so I do think Arsenal can get this job done. It is not going to be easy. And I think it is all going to come down to that game where they play against Manchester City in a couple of weeks.
Ian, for our viewership out there, if by chance, for some reason, on the last day, both of these teams are tied atop the league, what happens?
So the first deciding factor will be goal difference. So you've actually seen Man City win their first title, I believe, on goal difference over Manchester United. So it is an important stat. Then I think it comes down to goals scored. And then I think it might be down to head-to-head record against the two sides. But I don't think it's ever come down. I think goal difference has always been it's going to be very unlikely that both sides are going to finish on the same goal difference.
Well, you say that, but right now Arsenal has a goal difference of let me do the math here. 43, and Man City has a goal difference of 48. So it is close at the moment. Don't even get me started, though. That's how you decide a title. That's a whole nother show that we could do. My thoughts on that. I can't stand that.
Yeah, but we'll talk about it another time. We got a bit more time. I just always say that, but it's like, You've got to reward it somehow. Well, they're not just going to play a one-off game. I know that's what you'd probably want.
American ways are the best.
Winner takes all. Well, we're not kind of the Ritz glamour and style of America, mate. We like to keep things boring and statistical.
100%. All right. Well, I like that. I'm looking forward to that game. I actually am rooting for a West Ham win. I'd like to see that be extremely close and see us go to the last day of regulation, or at least that Arsenal-Man City game have a lot more meaning to it. So we'll see what happens. That's a good bet. Arsenal -1. They have been playing well this season. But speaking of goals and differences, there's a league out there that has quite a bit of goals a lot of the time, and we're going to look at a game in it. That is in the Bundesliga, and I'm going to let you say the names because I don't want to mess them up. But what do we got on Sunday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time?
Yeah, normally a lot of goals in the Bundesliga until I pick the game, and then so hopefully we can break that streak this weekend. But we're looking at Wolfsburg versus Bayer Leverkusen. You've already given the times. We're looking at over 2.5 goals in this one. I think this one's it should be a pretty good bet to get this one. It's two pretty good sides, both of them still going for European places. Bayern Leverkusen actually one of the hottest sides in Europe at the moment. I think they've won 5 games in a row. They didn't get a win in midweek, though, in the Europa League, which is a little bit surprising. They had to scramble back for a draw, but it is still an impressive run of games they've had in the Bundesliga. They even beat Bayern Munich in that run of games as well, and they don't lose too many games in a year, so that is very impressive. It's a very high tempo, very high energy game that Leverkusen play, so it should be an enjoyable watch. Wolfsburg, they're a little bit shaky as well, especially at home, but they still got hopes of getting into European football, so it's not just going to be one where they're coasting, just trying to go through the motions till the end of the season. Very opportunistic side as well. They really tend to make the most of the chances they create in games, so I would expect both sides to score in this one, and I expect it to be a pretty good back and forth game between the two clubs. I think Leverkusen will probably win it, but I do think it'll be over 2.5 goals. So I think it'll probably end up being Wolfsburg 1, Leverkusen 2 or 3.
Yeah, it is a very high-scoring league in itself. They probably average near 3 goals a game as an overall league. Looking at the league table, though, Bayern, they're 6, all right? They look like they still have a chance to take 4th place from, is it Leipzig? I think it is, or Freiburg.
Yeah.
What's the secret to Alonso's success there? And just something I just noticed, do you think Bayern is going to give up that top spot to Dortmund this season?
Yeah, well, just quickly on that one, that's the two we had that weekend last weekend, where the top 4 played each other, and it was Bayern and it was Dortmund who came out as the 2 winners in that one. So it is just those 2 now in a head-to-head. The smart money's still on Bayern Munich. Dortmund just have this tendency to just fall at the final hurdle or to never be able to get the job done. So I would be surprised if Bayern Munich actually lose another game or drop points in another game until the end of the season. So therefore, you have to just go with Bayern Munich. But going back to this one, Xabi Alonso has built a side that's all about kind of high pressure and high tempo, which is quite common what you see in the Bundesliga. And I think the Bundesliga kind of suits his managerial style at the moment. It's a very athletic side as well, and which means they can just play at a very fast pace. The 3 players that help them do this is Jermaine Frimpong, their wing back. Up front, you've got Moussa Diaby and Amini Adli, who are just so quick at getting in behind. And then they have Florian Wirtz as that playmaker in between the 2 strikers who kind of pulls the strings. And it just means that they can almost like do a little bit like what we see Spurs do in a way, where they sit almost like a coiled spring in a game, pass, try and move the opposition into an area they want them, and then just hit balls over the top, hit balls into the channel, use the pace down the wings or over the top to get in behind. Very fun side to watch. Very balanced and organized out of possession as well. They're very, very good at what they do. And I think it's going to be exciting to see how many of these Leverkusen players is he able to keep is probably going to be the key if he's going to build on them next season and get them potentially challenging near the top of the top, more higher up the league, and maybe even going for a championship.
Yeah, it's a little disappointing those 2 teams, going back to Dortmund and Bayern, don't get to play each other again. I think it would be a little more exciting down the stretch. I don't expect Bayern to drop any. I just looked at the schedule. I don't expect them to drop any points there. Just quickly, one more thing. I mean, those players that I mentioned there, I always look at the Bundesliga and I always think like I wouldn't be shocked if these players end up in the Premier League next season, because they produce these players that almost seem tailor-made to come in and play in the fast-paced league of the Premier League. And so all these players have all the pace and power you would expect that Premier League sides would be looking at and trying to target. Yeah, and speaking of the Premier League, little update, Villa did take a 3-0 lead on Newcastle, so that hit our over. We had a bet over 2.5, and there should be 9 goals in that game, but we ended up getting it there around the 82nd minute. Well, a surprising result. There's a lot going on in the Premier League and other leagues this weekend, and what are you looking at that is kind of on your radar?
Yeah, well, obviously the top 2 in the Premier League. I mean, we talked about Arsenal playing West Ham. You've got Man City playing Leicester today. Leicester look so out of sorts. Getting rid of Brendan Rodgers didn't change their fortunes. And they go to Man City, who are just in red-hot form. You'd expect a big win for the Sky Blues in that one. Putting pressure on Arsenal for tomorrow's game. Leeds-Liverpool on Monday night. Leeds need the points down the bottom of the table, but that one should be an amazing atmosphere at Elland Road. This, lot of history, a lot of rivalry between the 2 sides. So I expect a good game on Monday night in that one. But we move over to France, Matt. Potential title decider in France. PSG versus Lens. If Lens have got any aspirations of winning the league, they have to beat PSG in this game. If PSG beat them, that's pretty much title over. Probably title over with a draw as well. So it's Lens all or nothing in this game today. Germany, it's the top 2. Bayern Munich home to Hoffenheim. Dortmund away at Stuttgart. I wouldn't expect either one of them to drop points. Spain, we're looking at the race for the Champions League. You've got Atletico Madrid, who are also in amazing form, 5 wins in a row for Atleti versus Almira. Athletic Bilbao versus Sociedad is 7th versus 4th, so European aspirations. And then I think one down the bottom is Villarreal via the lead, 2 sides.
Yeah, there's a lot of, as Ian cut out there, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here in the soccer world. Ian will be right back with us, I know for sure. But yeah, I'm actually looking forward to the France PSG Lens game. That is a title decider, as Ian mentioned. In all honesty, that one is going to be at 3 p.m. Eastern today. And looking at, this afternoon.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I was just saying, I'm really looking forward, out of all those you mentioned, I'm looking forward to the PSG match at 3 o'clock today.
Yeah, which one? Did you hear all those ones in Germany and Spain? Or
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, yeah, and also just quickly as well, I mean, then Champions League, quarterfinal, second leg, and Europa League and Conference League on Thursday as well. So it's non-stop football. Champions League is a lot of games that you feel are decided already. But you're still going to see if Chelsea can make a miraculous comeback against Madrid, Matt. You see if Napoli can overturn a 1-0 defeat to AC Milan. City should come through against Bayern. And we'll see if Man United shit the bed on Thursday night in the Europa League.
Well, I am wearing my Chelsea blue, and I hope they can come back, but I have no confidence in the world that they're going to be able to. So later today, in fact, in about 9 more minutes, I'm getting off the air and I'm changing my Chelsea blue into my St. Louis SC red, because that is what's going on. It's time for some MLS news, and let's talk about my best bet here today in the MLS. Ian, it was an exciting start for St. Louis on the season. These guys were 5-0, but that has definitely taken a turn downwards after a 3-0 loss last weekend, which is their second loss in a row, and they have absolutely plummeted down the standings to second place in the Western Conference. And you know what? I know we talked about this and about them having to play a better team and how would they do, and they just did not look good. They played very well in the first half for the St. Louis team that's young and new, but Seattle showed why they are one of the best teams over the last decade in the MLS by pouring it on and really winning easily in that second half. Now, the hard matches continue, Ian. This week, they play Cincinnati, who sits atop the Eastern Conference, who's yet to lose a game after they beat Philadelphia last weekend, which kind of leads me into things that I learned in Week 7 in the MLS. Is Cincinnati for real, or is Philadelphia just not as good as we thought this season? Will Columbus be a contender this season, which is maybe a real given, as they have started off pretty well, and it looks like their form is over the last 4 games is much better than we thought it could be, and I'm excited about them being maybe a title contender. I gave out to our members at Grandstand Bettors Columbus at 20-1 odds, a future bet to win the MLS Cup this season. So I'm hoping that one does come to fruition. The last thing, though, I learned in week number 7 in the MLS is I am never going to bet on Sporting Kansas City and Colorado ever again to get over 2.5 goals. Those two teams play a boring game, and honestly, I turned it off at halftime. So, Ian, I'm going to give you a second. Go ahead. Tell me tell me that you told me so.
Yeah, but what do you mean? I mean, you say you told you so, but you did it yourself. You literally went in there and you said both these teams don't score many goals. Both these teams are usually pretty boring. They're usually very defensive minded. Let's go over 2.5 goals.
So I just want to say with that so I was 50-50 on my predictions. I exactly told you what it was going to be like, but I got the over total goals wrong.
Yes.
Oh,
there we
so.
go.
Moving on
He's
here
never
to week
wrong,
8.
This guy. He's never wrong.
Never.
It's just the teams let him down.
Exactly, Ian, exactly. So looking at week 8 here in the MLS, there are some intriguing matchups. As I mentioned, is Columbus for real? They're going to host New England in a top 4 showdown in the Eastern Conference. I think this match is going to tell us one of two things this week. Number one, is New England on the same level as Cincinnati? Do they go out and beat a decent or good Columbus team? Or is Columbus going to make some noise and have a chance at the Cup this year? We'll see how that plays out. Quite honestly, after I said that, I just realized it's probably going to be a 0-0 draw, and we aren't going to learn a damn thing. So we'll see how that game goes. Also, I'm looking at Chicago hosting Philadelphia. As I mentioned earlier, Philly, they've looked awful in the fact that they only have 1 point in their last 4 matches, and they haven't won a match since week 3. Now, I want to point this out. They just qualified for the semifinals of the CONCACAF Champions League. So maybe right now we're seeing them in the MLS be a little bit down because their priorities are somewhere else. And the final thing I'm going to be watching in Week 8 is obviously St. Louis SC versus Cincinnati. It's at home at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Can we make a statement and show tenacity and come back from these 2 losses in which we have not scored a goal in the last 180 minutes? So that's what I look forward to watching. But the question is, what is my MLS over bet of the week? And I am going to look at DC United and Montreal over 2.5. And I can already hear Ian groaning at this one. Yes.
Rooney.
Yes, these 2 teams are at the bottom of the league. And Montreal, yes, has only scored 3 goals on the season.
Oh my goodness.
But Philly, but it was in all one game actually against Philly in their only home match of the year. These 2 teams give up a ton of goals. 28 goals to be exact over 7 weeks. That is a combined 4 goals given up for these 2 teams each and every week. I like Montreal at home here to get their scoring going. Remember, in the only home game, they scored all 3 of their goals, and their defense has been horrible. Trust me, Ian, I know these teams don't score, but this one tonight is going over 2.5.
They're due. They are due. Yeah, I mean, 2 bad defenses, so, why not give it a go? Also, I know we quickly want to press on, but also saw there's a Battle Los Angeles today, isn't there? LAFC, LA Galaxy. So no doubt there'll be some fighting and some rioting and some violence and some crime happening in LA, which is going to be pretty much like a normal LA weekend.
Yeah, and basically when those 2 teams play behind the goal, the supporter section looks like a scene out of The Walking Dead.
just like LA then.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Yeah. Any confidence in St. Louis SC taking a win today, or you think we continue to falter?
I think it's a tough game. It is another difficult game, but they're home. They're at home, and I think that they'll be keen to put right the last 2 weeks. So I wouldn't say that if they got. I think they'll be happy even if they drew the game today, just to sort of end that sort of losing run.
Yeah.
So I think they can get something out of the gate today's game for sure.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. The team has kind of gone how Klaus has gone. When Klaus scores a goal, they win games. When Klaus is taken care of, and the Sounders did a good job, and Minnesota did a great job the week before in shutting him down, they actually have not been able to score anything. So we'll see how Klaus plays. I'll be tuned in with my wife at 8:30 watching the game. And can't wait for that. But Ian, I know we've talked. Those are our 4 best bets. But we have a £1 parlay that you're looking at today. What do you have for us, and what are the odds in this one?
Yeah. So just to say, £1 parlay. Treat it with a pinch of salt. Treat it as a bit of fun. I usually fall flat on my face with these, but it's 1,500 plus 1,500, so 15 to 1 out there. So not bad value on this one. Pick a side from each of the 4 divisions in England, so Premier League, Championship, League 1, League 2. My team in the Premier League is going to be Tottenham, home to Bournemouth. Did well last week. I expect another home win for the Spurs in that one. Second one is dodgy one, Blackpool at home to Wigan. Blackpool really struggling. They did just sack their manager, so expecting a little bit of a managerial bounce. Lincoln in League 1 at home to Port Vale. I just saw Port Vale play Oxford last week, and they are terrible. So I think Lincoln should be able to edge that one. Edge a win. Hey, in that one. And Salford City versus Colchester. Salford in pretty good form in League 2. So I would expect them to get the job done in that one.
Yeah, and after you hearing it talk about the 4 teams there, I'm going to tell you Port Vale's going to screw us. Watch that be the team after they absolutely sucked last week. To beat Lincoln.
Yeah, they did. They sure did suck last week, that's for sure.
All right, well, that's it, except there's just something we got to continue to go over here, Ian. I think we need to update everyone on what Oxford's doing, because if I'm not mistaken, I have now tallied, if I'm correct, 14 winless weeks in a row here by the Oxford United team, and we're only 10 days away from them being worse than the Cleveland Browns' worst losing streak.
Yeah, it's getting there, isn't it? It's getting there. Yeah, still, wins are just coming hard to come by. Goals are coming hard to come by as well. We had a good draw against Sheffield Wednesday, but I was expecting them to back that up with a win against Port Vale. We ended up with a 0-0 draw, and we didn't look that great. We looked so toothless going forward, and it is a worry. We've just seen Cambridge United pick up points down the bottom already, so it's put pressure on Oxford today. It's a home game against Bolton, who are near the top of the league. So it's going to be difficult. It's going to be really difficult. But I remain hopeful that a win is round the corner. They are playing better. And they are, if you take the positive, they are unbeaten in the last 4. Just unfortunately, they were all draws.
Yeah, I look forward to the match. I really hope that they stay up. But if they can't get a win here, especially with, I believe, Cambridge did close that out against Peterborough, I think it's going to be a little nervy here in the last few weeks. Yeah. So we'll see.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's it for our show today. Good luck to Oxford. Make sure you go subscribe to Ian OUFC. For all those watching on a replay, and we get a ton of people that watch this on replay, have a great weekend betting. Hope you win, and come join us live. Same time, same place, next weekend, 9 a.m. Eastern. Have a good one, guys, and we'll see you next week.